Okay, so this is about the fourth or fifth video we've done for Sunday morning's question and answer from the discussion and sermons on 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and received 4 questions this week. One is, the question is there a equal surprise, though one good, one bad, for believers and unbelievers at the day of the Lord or the return of Christ or the day of wrath? Or, we looked at all those terms on Sunday morning. In other words, is the believer just as surprised as the unbeliever at the day of the Lord? And I think the answer to that is yes. The parable of the 10 virgins, none of them know when the bridegroom's going to come. 5 of them are smart and are expecting him to come at any moment, so they're careful with the oil in their lamps. 5 of them are foolish, and they are therefore locked out. They're all 10 equally surprised. 5 wind up in with the bridegroom at that great wedding feast, and 5 are left out because of their foolish lack of preparedness. But they're all equally surprised. 5 are joyful, 5 are sorrowful. And I think that's the case with 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. It does seem like that a believer should be more aware of the return of Christ being imminent or near. But that doesn't mean that the believer is going to be able to mark it on a calendar and go, oh, well, it's 2 o'clock next Thursday. It seems like the believer also will be at least a little surprised by this day, not being able to circle a date on a calendar. And so believers are to live with a continual sense of expectation of his return, knowing that he will come like a thief in the night. For both believer and unbeliever, it's going to be a surprising day. It will be a demonstrative moment. It won't be something that will be hidden. It won't be something where you go, wow, did it happen or not? But it will be something that is not circled on a calendar or expected. So that's the first question. The second question, which is closely related to that, has every generation considered themselves to be the generation of the return of Christ? And the answer to that is yes, and the Bible intended that. Every generation is intended to live as believers, both as if Christ would return today or as if it will be generations from now. Both of those held in tension, so that I'm always expecting for him to return right now, but I have to live as if he might not return right now. And so you live with those in tension. Live every day as if today is the day, or is as if today is one of many days until his return. And that allows us to live both with expectation and not foolishness, where you might sell all your possessions because you've got it all figured out and then become nothing but a burden on the church. Or the other extreme, which is to say, well, I'm just going to live any old way I choose because he's never coming back. And so there is a sense of expectation that has been in every generation, every church age, and I think Jesus intended that. I think Paul intended that in his letters. I think God intends us to live that way in every generation as if he would return. Without all the predictions that lead to such foolishness. So expectation without prediction of specific dates. The next thing is, does living expectantly mean I can have no fun? And the answer to that is, there's never an excuse for a believer to not have fun. In fact, it's a sin for you to not have fun. I would suggest to you, if you're not having fun, there's something you need to change in your life. Jesus says, my joy be in you. Or Paul says that my joy might be complete. Please have fun. Your lack of fun could kill your witness. Jesus was joyful. The disciples were joyful. They responded to his return from the grave with incredible joy and some struggles with disbelief. But the New Testament church was marked by joy. So please have fun. Please live life fully. Use your resources wisely. Don't be greedy. Don't be overly possessive. Don't be overly controlled by this life. The problem is, what's your definition of fun? And if you define fun of spending everything on yourself, the irony to that is that you actually have very little fun, and you will probably be unfun to be around, and you will waste your life. So having fun, unless you're defining it by some world standard, having fun is incumbent on every believer to live a joyful life. Joy is a decision. Joy is a spiritual gift. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy. So the second one behind love that is listed in the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians is joy. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So, yes, please have fun. Please always have fun. Not to say there's not times to weep, but the joy for a believer should always be present. And then the last thing is, will God ever stop nudging you? And the answer to that is, I am hesitant to speak for God on how God will interact with any one individual or how he'll interact with them. But I do feel like, even with the thief on the cross, where the very last breath of his life, you have God extending grace to him. And you have, from very early on, where Jesus says, let the little children come to me. So from beginning to end of life, you have examples of Christ reaching out to people, of God reaching out to them. Moses is called at 80, dies at 120. You have Abraham getting his call after he's 75 years old. So these are examples in the Bible. So I can't tell on one individual, nor do I think it's my position to try to predict on any one individual that God has either stopped or not stopped pursuing them. But as far as I can tell, you see it in the story of the prodigal son, where the prodigal son goes away for a long time into a far-off country, but the father waits for his return, longing for his return. So I would say the Father, God the Father, is always looking to rejoice over a sinner that repents. And because of that, I don't think he withholds his convicting hand and gracious call from anyone. Now, they may coldly turn him away over and over again, but I would like to think that the Bible's got enough examples of God extending enormous grace all the time for new opportunities and additional opportunities to people. You remember when Jesus comes into Jerusalem at the very end of his ministry, he begins to weep and say, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I long to gather you under my wings the way a hen would her chicks, but you were unwilling. And this was 3 years of him constantly calling on them, and even then he's brokenhearted that they haven't responded. So I think God longs for people's repentance. He longs for them to humble themselves before him, and he longs to bless them with great joy so that they would see him as glorious. And so because of that, I think he continues to work on all of us every day. All right, so those are the questions for this week. If I didn't answer them well, ask them again next week. I'll give it another try.